A deficit in Ontario. Various parties have various target dates for coming up with a balanced budget. As I recall, the Conservatives and Liberals are pretty close, and the New Democrats, and particularly the Green Party, are kind of out in front of that. But I'd just like to ask a general question about how important that, with all the other priorities, all the other things we have to do, keep the economy afloat, do this, do that, find more jobs, preserve health care, make sure education is working the way it should, put more money into it if you can find it. How important is it to whittle down that deficit in the number of years that it's being promised it will be whittled down in?
I think it's extremely important. I'll take this question
Okay.
first. I think it's extremely important because what happens? In the past 8 years, we've seen the debt double in the province of Ontario, and we've seen also an increase in tax at the same time. Actually, this is quite a bit of a burden for the people of Ontario, because what happens, even now that we have record low interest rates, we pay about $10 billion to just in interest alone for our debt, which means that $10 billion that could have gone into services or needs that people have in the province of Ontario. So I think it's extremely important for us to actually get a grasp on that debt situation that we have.
Then move on from there and tell me how you're going to do it.
Okay, like I said, first we have to look at what is our spending been in the past. We have about $6 billion that we have in corporate tax cuts that have not brought any real results to us. The same problem is with our friends in the United States in the South. I think we should actually roll those back. That's $6 billion that we can use towards paying down debt.
Well, that's part of
better
it,
things.
yeah.
Exactly.
So that would be the major thrust for the New Democrats
also
to do.
stop waste like e-health, which is $1 billion. Stop these smart meters, which cost another $1 billion. These are billions and billions of dollars that if you add them up, they actually are quite sizable.
After a while, you start talking about some serious money, don't you? Huh? Yeah,
Exactly.
all right. Okay. Mike Cole, what about the deficit and the priority it should have with any government?
Well, I'm surprised that the NDP is now talking about taking these heavy measures on debt and deficit, where every time they're in the legislature, they're asking us to spend more. So I really find it a contradiction here. But the thing is that in 2008, we had an economic meltdown here, where the government of Ontario had to make a decision. Do we basically do what they did in the States and lay off thousands of people in healthcare and education, because that's the primary areas? Do we let General Motors and Chrysler basically collapse with the $400,000 jobs? We said we weren't going to inflict that kind of punishment on people because it would also be detrimental to the economy, because it would slow down and really add fire to the add gasoline to the flames of the economy.
Don't lose sight of the question I asked, okay?
Yeah, but that's
right.
So that's how we got into the deficit, because we made those investments to keep our healthcare and education.
Having been there now, how are we?
Now, what we've got to do is continue to grow the economy, expand the economy, and the Ontario economy is resilient enough to get through this, but it's not going to be done overnight. Because if you do it overnight...
So you can whittle the debt through growth? I mean,
that's part of it. That's part of it. And then the other part of it is through innovation, through efficiencies. But you can't whittle it on healthcare and education, because if you do that, the consequences are going to be really felt amongst people who can least afford it.
Josh Ratcliffe, your thoughts on this deficit and how we wrestle it to the ground, get rid of it?
Well, it's an interesting point because a lot of people just assume the Green Party is about the environment, about being sustainable environmentally, but just as much we're about being sustainable financially. So we're pretty proud of our deficit reduction plan, which will have it down to zero by 2015, and by 2018 we'll be saving Ontarians $2,200.
So you're way ahead.
Yeah. I mean,
in your prediction.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So because, it's funny. Last night I started to go through my credit cards. Go, okay, which credit card do I have to pay off first? Which is charging me the most interest? And it suddenly dawned on me that's why I'm green, right? It's the same with government. You pay off. It's not just about throwing money. We got to get rid of this evil deficit. It's as much money as you're paying for interest is money that you could be investing in the environment and healthcare, right? So get rid of that so that we can. We're not giving debt to our children and wasting money on interest.
Okay. I've only got a couple of minutes left, and I think people, when they're assessing you...
I didn't get to respond on the deficit.
On the deficit? Did I not get... All right, quickly on the deficit. Sorry about that, Rocco.
I mean, quickly, it is critical, and the Liberals simply aren't credible on bringing costs down. They've never, ever shown in these 8 years that they can reduce costs. They've increased the size of government by 80% over the last 8 years at a time when the economy grew by 10%. You're not going to make it up in volume in terms of the economy growing. They know that themselves. That's why, in order to get the economists to tick off their platform, they had to add on page 56 that they're going to cut 5%. They had to add that they're going to do.
Well, isn't that
public
exactly
salary.
what the Progressive Conservatives are going to have to do too?
But we have at least said, outside of healthcare and education, we will do 2% a year in all of the other departments. We've been absolutely clear. Whereas my colleague is now saying it's all going to be done through growth. I don't believe in trickle down.
So jobs will be cut, but not in the protected areas.
Not in the protected areas.
But they will be cut elsewhere.
We're going to get rid of the LHINs. We're going to eliminate the OPA. There are 560 different agencies, boards, and commissions, many of which do not serve any good purpose. You've had a tripling of the number of civil servants making over $100,000 a year. You had $1 billion plus blown on e-health, and then after that,
well, don't forget your own party's role in that.
After that, this government had the audacity to give merit pay increases and bonuses to the e-health staff, and then after a public outcry, they pulled it back, but now they're being taken to court by these same workers because they haven't managed it properly.
Quickly,
I'll just say quickly on e-health,
30 seconds.
$800 million was spent by his Conservative friends. And the second thing is that the Conservatives say they're just going to cut in other areas than health and education. Well, it doesn't add up because those ministries are so small, the efficiencies you make there aren't going to basically add up in their platform. Right, so they're the same old story.
Time, gentlemen, I'm sorry. Never enough time. 30 seconds now from each of you in summation, and I'll start with Rocco Rossi.
Thank you very much. It would be my absolute honor to be your representative in Eglinton-Lawrence. This election is about change. We have a very clear choice. We can have 4 more years of higher taxes, greater inefficiency, more waste, or you can have a government under Tim Hudak that's going to bring you some tax relief, that's going to ensure we get value for money so we have money for the things that we value, principally education and health care. And with that, Ontario will retake the place it rightfully deserves.
Thank you very much. Josh Rackless, your final thoughts.
I'm just going to tell you how I live my own life. I take care of my health, I exercise, I save money, and I save the environment by using energy-efficient light bulbs. I care about people. I pick up litter everywhere I go. If you want me doing that on a macro scale and taking care of the province in the same kind of OCD way, you'll all benefit from it. So vote for Green.
All right, thank you very much. Gertie Dervishi, your final thoughts, please.
Thank you. I just want to, in October 6th, vote for fresh politics, vote for fresh mind and fresh ways to tackle issues that are important to you. Vote for the NDP and change that puts people first. I think when you go vote, think of yourself, your friends, and your neighbors, so we can keep the services, create the jobs, and preserve the way of life that is so important to us, so we can build a province that we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Michael, your final thoughts.
I'm very proud to live in my riding. I'm very proud to represent the people of my riding. And just to say that the future of this province and the cities at stake in this election, because if you elect Tim Hudak and his hokey plan, the same kind of cuts that you're seeing in the City of Toronto in libraries and TTC, you're going to see tenfold. So we need a balance. We can't have a Conservative government in Ottawa, Conservative government at City Hall, Conservative government at Queen's Park. We need checks and balances. And with McGuinty government, we've got those checks and balances that will invest in public health care, public education, and public transit.
Okay. How goes the campaign, all of you? Having a good time?
Fantastic.
Really?
Yeah. Good, yeah.
Did you have a good time for the last hour?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thanks, Dale.
Okay.
Getting better all the time.
Well, campaigning is a special kind of work, isn't it? I mean, good
Well, if
grief.
you don't love people and you don't want to be out there, then this is the wrong gig.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So this is the fun part, is actually going to the door and talking to people about their dreams, about their hopes.
I had a cabinet minister here the other night. He said, "It's great. I don't have to deal with the cabinet stuff. I can just go out and talk to people."
Yeah, real people. And And you know what it is 99% of the people are just wonderful. You always get one or two
Yeah.
people, but that's
I'd be
fantastic.
grouchy if you came to my door.
Yeah, I know.
I'd be grouchy to all
At
of
9 in
you.
the morning. So but anyways, people are great.
Thank you all
you.
very much. Good
Thank you
luck
very
to you
much.
all. Thanks
Great
for coming
pleasure.
in.
Thanks, Dale.
On the next local campaign, Don Valley East and Don Valley West. So join us tomorrow night for those ridings. Bye for now.